Hi, I'm Johnny John. So in the previous video, I talked about the effect that stimulation has on the mind. Today, I want to talk about this even more, and also in particular, the relationship between negative ideas and stimulation. So let us begin. Let us begin by understanding the state of stillness. The state of stillness can be said to be a state when we are simply observing the present moment, when we are in peace and harmony with ourselves and the outside world, when the mind is in a state of non-stimulation. In such a state, it is a state of happiness. Now, when we are in a state of stimulation, we can fall into an illusion that we're in a higher level of happiness. But in fact, we're simply in an excited state of mind. Now, when we search for stimulation, what happens is that we can end up creating more desires for stimulation. And when we become attached to the things which we're stimulated about, it can only take us down on the road of suffering. Because when we do not have the things in which we desire, and which stimulates us, then we will be in a state of unhappiness. So pursuing happiness through stimulation is a double-edged sword. Temporary happiness, leading us to the destination of suffering. Also understand that when you create thoughts which stimulate the mind, it will create a void inside. It will create the desire to fill that void with some sort of stimulation. And it doesn't have to be the object in which you have stimulated your mind about. So whether you stimulate your mind with the thoughts of sex, drugs, friends, going out with friends, going to holidays, making big money, it will create the desire for some sort of stimulation. So that is why when your mind is stimulated, it will be hard to simply be still and do nothing. And when this happens, the mind has become master over you, and you have become the slave, because the mind will drive you to fulfill its orders, to fulfill its desires for stimulation. And this will never be truly fulfilled, because in search for stimulation, it will only create more desire for stimulation. When we have little mastery over the mind, it will then be very difficult to address any habit patterns, our attachment to the objects in which we have become attached to, which we have been constantly stimulating our minds about. And this will only lead us down on the road of suffering. Now let us come to the section in which I want to talk about the most, which is the relationship between negative ideas and stimulation. Now, what stimulates the mind the most are negative ideas. Negative ideas are the ideas which create self-rejection. For instance, ideas beginning with "it is not okay." For instance, it is not okay to be poor. And from negative ideas, when we become attached to negative ideas, it will create the aversion inside. It will create the desire to crave, to hate. Realize that aversion and cravings are what stimulates the mind the most, because we tend to like to dwell on these extreme desires. For instance, about a person we hate, about an object we really want. How does negative ideas create aversions and cravings? We'll talk about this more in the later videos, but basically, when you become attached to like a negative idea, it's not okay to be poor, it will make you crave. It will make you desire to be rich. It will make you hate being poor, craving and aversion. So to truly address the issues of stimulation, we have to address the negative ideas. And naturally, as you address the negative ideas, any issues to do with stimulation will naturally be resolved. So in summary, There's a strong relationship between negative ideas and stimulation. Address the negative ideas. Any issues to do with stimulation will naturally be resolved.